He's Vice Chair of the House Democratic Caucus. Texas Republican Congressman Kevin Brady, Vice Chair of the Joint Economic Committee. Welcome, gentlemen. Javier, these oil companies pay a fortune, but okay, I'll go with it. You guys had the similar bill in the House. $2 billion a year in taxes to reduce the deficit with a $1.5 trillion annual deficit. I mean, you're just punishing oil companies, aren't you?
Larry, it's not a matter of punishing anyone. It's the fact that there are a lot of Americans, including seniors and children, who are hurting, and we have to concentrate on making sure that we take care of everyone. So if you've got some people who are making $36 billion in profits in one quarter, you shouldn't have to take taxpayer money to try to give them more subsidies to do what they're already doing very successfully and profitably. So it's more about saving the taxpayers money and not giving tax breaks to someone who's making, in one quarter, record profits of $36 billion.
Well, Kevin Brady, let me just pick up on that. I mean, oil companies are making good money, Kevin, but the reality is they're paying a fortune in taxes. They have almost a 50% effective tax rate. It sounds to me like this is the blame game for higher gasoline prices, but you tell me.
No, it is. In fact, energy companies do pay a higher effective tax rate than most other businesses. And what this will do, pure and simple, for that person at the pump paying nearly $4 a gallon, wondering how they're going to pay for that fill up of their vehicle, this won't lower those prices at all. In fact, it'll probably drive them up. More importantly, it'll drive companies and jobs offshore, which is, I think, really the intent of all this. Blame big oil, even though it's independents that drill most of our oil and natural gas in America. Shift the blame from a White House and a Congress that's locked off America's resources, imposed a poorly thought out moratorium in the Gulf of Mexico, and now wants to tax companies for manufacturing energy here in America.
Congressman Becerra, aren't you taking away expensing tax provisions that every other sector of the economy, all the other companies enjoy?
You know, Larry, I'm fascinated how you and Kevin just framed this, because you're talking about removing a subsidy that an industry is getting and calling that a tax increase, when in fact, by keeping the subsidy in place, other people, other Americans, have to pay for that cost of that subsidy through higher taxes. So the reality is, if we can lower the tax rates for other Americans, because we're not giving out tax subsidies to industries that are doing very, very well, we get to lower tax rates, not increase taxes. But again, we should be able to sit down with every industry, in this case the oil industry, to figure out how we can best help them continue to be very profitable. No one wants them to go under. We want them to be profitable. In fact, we're drilling 1.5 million barrels of oil more today than we were 5 years ago. And so what we want to do is make sure we're doing all these things responsibly, profitably, but not at the expense of the American taxpayer, who's right now suffering far more than any oil companies.
Congressman Brady, though, I thought the idea circulating in Washington was corporate tax reform, where you removed deductions and credits, but you lowered the corporate tax rate, which is the highest in the world. This, again, sounds like it is totally aimed at the blame game on 5 oil companies. Doesn't it violate tax reform?
Yes, it does. In fact, you know, we all support fundamental tax reform. This is simply singling out one industry, energy, to tax them at a greater amount. In fact, one of the incentives, we have a manufacturing incentive for companies of all types to build, manufacture, invest in America, but they want to single one industry out, America, energy, remove that incentive to manufacture America, send those jobs and that production offshore. It makes no sense whatsoever. For a economy, a recovery as excruciating, slow, and sluggish as this one is, this makes no sense.
You know, Congressman Becerra, almost a third of the shares of the companies you're singling out in the oil industry in general, but you've got the biggest public companies, are owned by the state pension funds. Government union workers own it. Aren't you worried, if you raise the taxes on these companies, that the pension fund value is going to go down and you're going to be hurting middle-class government union workers?
Larry, you're pretty good at economics. You make, in one quarter, $36 billion in profit. We're talking about returning those subsidies that the oil companies are getting back to the American public. I think all those pensioners that are either collecting or still working and contributing into the system are going to be very happy shareholders and also very happy taxpayers if we don't give away subsidies to companies and industries that are doing very, very well, thank you. The fact is this. We have budget deficits. We have to make decisions. We have to prioritize where we're going to put our money.
$2 billion a year, Javier. This just doesn't. It got $1.5 trillion deficit, and you're nickeling $2 billion a year against 5 companies that are already paying a fortune in taxes.
Larry, let me take you back home to my district.
I just don't get it.
Larry, let me take you back home to my district, where $2 billion will take people a long way. You may not think it's of much money, but I guarantee you, most American families know that $2 billion, which comes out of their pocket because they're paying higher taxes to subsidize some of these tax breaks, that's a lot of money.
I'm all for cutting the tax rates across the board. Gentlemen, we're flat out of time. I'm awful sorry. Congressman Javier Becerra, thank you. Congressman Kevin Brady, we appreciate you coming on.